It's over 9,000!
Shall we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining, whether you're listening live at 1 p.m. Central on 101.1 FM, The Answer in the Central Arkansas Little Rock area, or you're listening live via the online stream at 101.1 FM, theanswer.com, or if you're listening delayed by podcast or Krypton Radio on YouTube or whatever. I'm just so glad you're here. This is Shane Plays Geek Talk. It's just talk radio where we geek out, have fun with geeky pop culture, and just play. So it's not just about games, even though it's Shane Plays. It's when Shane plays, because I don't always get to play all week long, but this is when I just really try to get geeky. Today's show is going to be really cool. This is a show I've been wanting to get to for so long, and everything finally lined up, and so it's all come together. So today we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball Super Broly, which is out in theaters now. We'll talk about how it's doing, and you definitely want to listen to that because it's there's some definite news there on how well or not it's doing at the theater, so you want to listen to that. We're also going to do Anime 101, and this is a show I've been wanting to do for a long time because anime is a big topic. It's not just Dragon Ball, or it's not just whatever. It's not just Toonami or what. It's a huge spectrum of animated entertainment from Japan. So we'll get into the definitions of anime later in the show. Okay, Shane here. So I've got a note for the podcast version of the show. Nick, Brent, and I, and Nick and Brent are my two guests that came on to talk anime with me and Super Dragon Ball Broly. Anyway, we recorded some further conversation after the radio broadcast ended. Including negatives about Broly, subbed versus dubbed, subtitled versus dubbed, English dubbed anime, and whether they recommend it either way for people just getting an anime, and then favorite and least favorite anime tropes. So make sure to be listening, or to keep listening just when you think the show is ending. That extra content will play. You'll also hear me mention some intro to anime notes a few times from my friend and listener of the show, Justin, of the Mobley Detective Agency. And these are some great tips and notes and thoughts. And I've created a Google Doc of those and linked that on the show notes for this episode at shaneplays.com. So I highly, highly recommend checking those out. There's some really good stuff in there. Thanks again, Justin. Now, everybody probably knows this by now. My producer, engineer, Zach, is a big anime fan. So, Zach, I know you're happy for this show.
Yes, I am.
Yes, and we're also joined by my friends Nick and Brent, who I've just kind of gotten to know over the past year or two at work, and we've talked a lot about anime, and we've gone to 2 Dragon Ball movies. We went to the re-release of the original Dragon Ball Broly a few months ago, and then we went earlier this week to Super Dragon Ball Broly earlier this week, and we'll have our thoughts on that. And again, we're going to have it's Anime 101. So the 2 main things we're going to do in the show, we're going to talk about what do we think of Dragon Ball Super Broly, and also just kind of, and we won't be able to go too deep, even if we dedicated the entire show to it today. It's such a big topic, but maybe a few tips and recommendations if either A, you always hear about this anime stuff and you've been wanting to get into it, or B, you've been out of it for a while and you're kind of thinking about getting back in. Have some recommendations from these folks on what they wrote. Here's maybe some shows you want to check out. Here's ways to, get it and all of that stuff. So today's show is live. I am live today. Next week will be pre-recorded, but today I'm live. So if you feel like calling in, you can at 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. Or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. And yes, folks, if you're listening live, it is the Snowmageddon. There are flakes of snow out there. The visibility is going down. I'll keep an eye on the weather, but from what I understand, it's not cold enough to stick right now. But it is snowing pretty heavy, so you want to keep an eye on that. So if you're listening live and you're in the South, especially the Southeast or the Mid-South, you'll understand what I'm saying. Get to the store, get up to Kroger, and get your ingredients for your soup sandwiches now, because you need your milk and you need your bread. It's going to be a rampaging, like Walking Dead apocalypse. Everybody's running to the grocery store right now. So, all right, I'm going to introduce my buddies here. Of course, everybody knows Zach. In no particular order, completely randomly selected. Nick, how's it going, buddy? Welcome to Shane Plays.
It's all right. How about you?
Cool, man. And Nick is a cool dude. I've gotten to know both of these guys are super cool. I've gotten to know them over the past year or two, and we just talk geeky stuff at work a lot. And they've been. I'm their Padawan on anime. They've been teaching me more, along with another guy named Justin, who couldn't make it today. The one and two, Justin Mobley, and then our friend Trevor, the Trevinator, who was all about going to the movie, but is like, I'm not going to do radio, dude. And I was like, all right, I got to respect that. So that's the geek crew at work, or at least the anime geek crew. So again, Nick, welcome. And then Brent, we have Brent on the show. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just hanging out with you.
Cool. Well, that's the way to do it. Glad to have you on Shane Plays. He was pointing out the window at boy, it's really snowing out there.
The flakes have grown 5 times.
Zach, I want you to do me a favor. Keep an eye on the weather and keep an eye on the temperature for us, if you will, so we can, for our own knowledge, but also so we can let listeners know who are listening live. So what are you showing there? What temperature is that?
Around 7, it's supposed to get to 32, so it's
7
going to
tonight?
start sticking around 5-ish, I bet.
What time is it right now?
3-ish? It's 1.
I mean, not time. What temperature is it right now?
Oh, I'm sorry. 36 degrees.
Okay. All right. So, but with that amount of snow coming down, it still might get slushy or slick in a couple areas. So be careful. But you know what, man, we're gonna power up. Okay, all you guys right now. And now we've got yellow auras, right? What's the noise they make? Let's all power up so we can handle the snow.
Were you talking about shouting and an
How do they power up? What do they do when they power up and they
go,
get the Okay, so
they reach within.
All right, let's do that so that we can handle the snow, because we're gonna have to power up because the weather is powered up. So are you ready for this that has never been seen in thousands of years? Was that appropriate? I don't know. Anyway, I've been listening to this. There's several YouTube videos that have all these great quotes from Dragon Ball, and it's just a lot of smack talking and stuff. All right, guys. So and I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I always mess it up. Britt, I'm going to pick on you. What did we hear? What audio did we hear right at the beginning of what was Goku doing? It's a real common Dragon Ball thing.
I have already forgotten the very, very, very beginning.
Nick?
I don't know which part
was
you're
he doing
about.
the Kame? What do you call that?
The Kamehameha?
Kamehameha. Yeah, I'll never be able to say
Kamehameha.
that. Yeah, so here's the thing. I'm going to learn how to do that. With that whole Kame and really long drawn out, and then there's this final explosion of release of tension. I'm going to learn how to do that. And then the next time I'm like, hey, baby, I got to go take a break. And I took a couple of magazines up under, you know what I'm talking about, little guy Zen moment.
Yeah,
I'm gonna unleash that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to unleash that. Zach's in there doubled over.
On the porcelain throne?
Yeah, I'm going to unleash that to show everybody the amazingness of what's happening. Zach, speaking of doubled over.
What's up?
Dude, you were very animated during the movie the other night.
Man,
I love that.
Yes, because you go to the movies for 2 hours of entertainment. That is the basics
you
of
were
going to
your hands were going up and you were doubling over laughing. And
especially during one part of the movie, where I saw something happen. I was like, oh my goodness.
Now today, we can do minor spoilers because it's hard, but I don't want to give big spoilers.
I don't want to either.
And we'll get to save your powder, hold your powder. We will talk later in the show about, what we thought of the movie. But yeah, I'm gonna, dude. Do you know the what is it? What's the famous movie with Tim Curry, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where they act stuff out?
Okay,
that's like your personal Rocky Horror Picture Show, man. You were in there. That was fantastic. So Zach got to go with us too, and we had fun. So let's go ahead and get to the news segment. Mainly because it involves some Dragon Ball news, and it'll kind of lead us into what we're going to do here, or some of the stuff we're going to be talking about during the Snowpocalypse. And it's also appropriate that we got the Snowpocalypse because I don't think this is a big spoiler. The main fight happens on the ice continent.
Right. Yeah, it's on all the trailers. So.
And I'll just say, I'm like, why are they doing it on the ice continent? But then by the end, I'm like, okay, I totally get why. Visually, I understand why they did the ice continent. Yeah, because it got cray-cray.
It also, that's where the second Broly movie happens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's also kind of a
nod to the, okay. Yeah, so you guys know all the, from Dragon Ball Super forward, I have a pretty good understanding, but there's all kinds of stuff pre-Super I have no clue. And you guys
get to it one day.
Huh?
You need to get to it one day.
One of these days, it's on the list, but yeah, you guys have really helped me fill in. Like, for example, let's go ahead and talk about this very briefly. As trivia, Dragon Ball originally was a retelling of a Chinese legend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead. Why don't y'all, Brent, why don't you go first, and then Nick, why don't you fill in on top of Brent? So, Brent, give us the quick lowdown on that.
So it's based off Journey to the West.
Right.
Am I too far away?
No, you're fine now.
All right. So it really follows Wukong, or Son Goku, as he's called.
Son Goku, that's very important. This is the Chinese legend, right? Not okay, even before Dragon Ball came along. Okay.
As we actually, in the original Dragon Ball, you'll actually see lots and lots of references to it, like constantly Fire Mountain, stuff like the Princess with the Iron Fan. It'll continue on. When you get to Dragon Ball Z, it kind of leans off completely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's also the two important things, the flying cloud nimbus and then the power pole.
Yeah, the power pole, which you don't see as often, but watching older stuff, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, so they did that was the pole and everything. Yeah, but he used to fly around on a cloud and all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's a direct influence. And the creator, what's the creator of Dragon Ball's name?
Akira Toriyama.
Okay, and he'll say that's a direct influence, right? I mean, there's no. Did you know that, Zach?
About the history?
Yeah, did you know that came from a Chinese legend?
I had no idea, which I'm glad you two are here for.
Yeah, this is exactly why I want to do the show, because Zach's way big into anime, and he didn't even know that. Now the monkey tail thing that Saiyans have, was that have anything to do with that Chinese legend? Or
well, I think it's all just because Goku started off with having a tail, because they were basing it on that Chinese legend, and then they just kind of kept going and just making things up as they went along when they got to Dragon Ball Z and said, you know what, I guess we'll just make a whole entire race that all have monkey tails.
And they turn into apes by looking at the moon unless you cut their tail off.
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. And that, again, I'm not going to get into too much spoilers. It's not a major plot point or fight point, but that happens a little bit in the new Broly movie. And you don't see that referenced a whole lot in the newer, like Dragon Ball Super and stuff like that. And again, one of the things that makes this Broly movie very important for a Dragon Ball fan is the other Broly movies were not considered canon. They were, but this is canon. This is Dragon Ball Super canon, right?
Well,
as far as we know.
Yeah, so far, yeah. I imagine what's going to happen, it's going to be the same stuff as what they did with the first two Dragon Ball movies that became Super arcs.
Right.
Battle of Gods and Resurrection F.
So did they have those movies before they made them the arcs in the TV show? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Was that the same with, was it the Frieza?
Resurrection F.
Yeah. So that was Resurrection. Okay. All right. Frieza is in Broly a lot. He's so slimy.
Yes,
he's a slimy man. So, and you meet him as a boy too. Okay, so Zach, real quick before we get to the news segment, guys, you may not know this, but the head of my news team, Sal, his grandmother and her dog Muffin tend to get upset with me if I don't banter with Zach, because they see Zach as the true star of the show here. They love Zach. So Zach, in order to avoid any possible craziness, I just want to banter with you real quick. Do you remember what our show next week is going to be?
About the top 5 movies.
That's right.
Coming up this
will
year.
be the 3rd annual Shane Plays Geek Talk. Top 5 most anticipated geek movies of the year.
Yep.
With Dave Ellswick. And it's always one of the more popular. It's a fun show to do. It's one of the more popular shows to do. And so I'm going to be pre-recording that next week with Dave here at the studio, and then we'll play it next Saturday. And also, I've told you, you're more than welcome to, you love to talk movies. So if you're around, you're more than welcome to jump on into that. So do you have do you have one movie off the top of your head you're anticipating this year?
For sure, The Lion King.
The Lion King.
Oh, yeah.
The live action Lion King. All right. Well, very cool. What about you guys? Do y'all have like one movie you can think of that you just can't wait for?
I haven't really kept up. The only new movie that I saw that I would probably take interest in is maybe Ghostbusters 3. I was kind of surprised that they're actually making a Ghostbusters 3.
Right. Yeah, that came out of nowhere this week. In fact, that's going to be a news item. I wanted to make this all anime show, but that's such a big news item. I've got to mention it briefly. What about you, Brent? You got anything that you're looking forward to?
I'm normally not the type that goes to movies. I usually just watch them after they're 2 years old. Okay, so you're not the type that's like, I cannot wait. I got to be first in line, unless it's Dragon Ball Super Broly, and then you'll go to the theater. There's an exception for what I grew up with. Yeah, I got you. All right. So, folks, tune in next week for Dave and I's picks, and we'll also review how our picks from last year performed. So, all right, Zach, let's go ahead and hit the news segment and turn on the microphone, the super secret microphone in the newsroom. All right. There they go. Working hard, folks. Working on a Saturday. Love those guys. Remember, for every $1 of support the show gets by Patreon, the news team gets a penny an hour raise. A penny an hour. And I'm in negotiations with the union for possibly 2 pennies an hour. So have they still haven't reached out to you, Zach?
Still have not.
You wouldn't lie to me, would you, Zach?
I wouldn't do that to you.
Okay. Thanks, buddy. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You got to go where your conscience leads you. I understand that. All right, yeah. So you hit the secret game show ding 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 of the day, Nick, and the first item is, of course, catching. And I didn't want to do this any non-anime stuff, like I said, but this is too big not to mention catching everybody by surprise. There is a new Ghostbusters sequel set in the original universe coming in 2020. And this is exciting on many levels. One, I'm a major Ghostbusters nerd, huge Ghostbusters nerd, and you guys are giving me thumbs up and okay, cool. I love Ghostbusters movies. I love the Ghostbusters, real Ghostbusters cartoon. I'm a huge fan of that. In fact, in some ways, I like that version better than just because you got more of it and got to know the characters better. The comic books are. I'm just a big, huge Ghostbusters nerd. Right now, when they did the reboot a year or two ago, it wasn't my preferred version, but because it was Ghostbusters, I checked it out, and there were things I liked about it. I didn't think it was a complete loss like some people did. It was mediocre, I think. I really liked Holtzman, the crazy inventor lady. I thought she was really good. So, but anyway, there's a new Ghostbusters movie coming in 2020. It's Ghostbusters 3, so it'll be following 1989's Ghostbusters 2, which I've come to appreciate more over the years. I didn't like it for a long time, but the more I'm like, it's got its own strengths there. So what's interesting about this, that Jason Reitman, who is the son of Ivan Reitman. Ivan Reitman was the original, creative force behind it. He approached his dad and said, I want to do this. And I was like, wow, that's surprising because he's always wanted to do his own thing in movies. And they sat down and talked about what he wanted to do with it. And it was like, this is really good. So this is going to be a direct follow-up. Now it'll be set in modern times. So it's going to be like 30 years or whatever. And there'll be a lot of discussion over, the what actors and actresses and who all are going to be in it. I'm already seeing news headlines floating that the original cast, I have no idea. Nobody's going to know. But there's a teaser trailer out there. Have y'all seen the teaser trailer?
I did.
Yeah. I think it does a good job of capturing a feel of what Ghostbusters is to me that the reboot didn't. Because they went with the original music. They went with, all that. They were capturing that kind of. In the show notes, you can find a link and where I got most of my information about the sequel is the comicbook.com, and the byline there was Patrick Kavanaugh. So I want to make sure to get them credit. And, they must be fairly far along with this if they're expecting it to come out in 2020. That's not, we're in 2019 now. So it's not that far down the road, So I don't think that this is just, we kind of have a story idea in mind. I think they're fairly down the road. What about you, Zach? Are you a Ghostbusters guy?
I'm not a huge Ghostbuster fan. I'm not at all.
Why do you do this to me, Zach? Why? I overlook so many things in our relationship, Zach.
Well, we could overlook, plenty of things, just because, we love each other.
We do, right?
Yeah.
Love covers all. Okay, Zach, I love you, even though you don't love Ghostbusters. I don't understand it, but okay. I love you anyway, buddy. If somebody gave you a free Ecto-1, but you had to drive it every day, would you drive it? The big hearse, with the big hearse and everything?
Well, if I didn't have any transportation, sure, I would.
Dude, I would drive the wheels off that thing. That's all I got to say. All right. Okay. And then here is the main meat of the news segment. I think you got, and I definitely want discussion from Nick and Brent on this, and of course you too, Zach. So check this. Have you guys seen how Broly is doing? Okay.
No, I'm not.
All right.
Not
Listen
past
to this.
all the seats being filled up when
All
we
right.
try to go there.
All right. Well, let's go to a break. I'm joking. Here's how it's doing. This is from what's the? I've got the credit here. It is Cartoon Brew, which I'm not familiar with them, but it was a well-written article. Cartoon Brew, the byline is Ahmed Amidi, and Dragon Ball Super Broly topped the entire U.S. box office on its opening day with $7 million.
That's pretty impressive.
That's huge.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is, did you know that, Zach?
I did. I saw it this morning.
All right. So what, just to compare, they're calling this an event movie, right? It's not a Fathom movie, but it's we were talking before we came on air that it's showing on not every day and at different times. You've got to kind of seek it out to find it. So it's not like a normal movie where it's playing 5 times a day for a month, right? But you can find it. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought it was a Fathom event, but it's not. As Brent and I found it, because Brent's like, man, they don't show a lot of trailers at these events. I'm like, you're right, but then they did it like a normal movie. They had trailers and all that, so it's just like going to a regular movie.
They capitalize on that advertisement completely.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, it's like going to a regular movie. But you've got to find the time that it's at. So to put things into perspective, the $7 million box office set a new opening day record for Funimation Films, which is the theatrical division of Sony Pictures Television's Funimation. What do you think Funimation's previous record was?
I'd barely put it at $1 million, probably.
Right.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's a good estimate.
About $1 million? What movie do you think it might have been?
Your Name?
Did they do that?
Your
I don't
Name?
think they did that.
Yeah, and we're saying Funimation is one of the main companies that imports anime and localizes it and dubs it and whatever. So, what do you want to take a guess, Zach?
No.
All right. So the movie was in 2015. It was in 2015. Does that help?
Resurrection?
Resurrection
Oh, yeah, of
F.
course.
Yeah, Resurrection
Should I
F.
take another guess at a Dragon Ball movie?
Which was the 19th Dragon Ball film. It made $1.97 million.
Oh, okay.
So
we weren't too
this
far off.
tripled, more than tripled, and it beat the regular U.S. box office. And which, as Brent mentioned earlier, it's not super because we had to change our plans because we couldn't find a theater that had seats together. We were like, this was on Monday. We started looking at things filling up, and we were like, oh, we got to go ahead and get our seats and pre-order and all that. Because usually you go to these event movies, and it's kind of scattered who's there. There's people there, but it's not packed.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say the theater was pretty full the other night.
It was.
Yeah, it was very full.
Makes me proud.
It makes you proud.
I'm sure almost all the seats were taken because all the front seats were not taken. And then when we got there, they were.
We got we didn't get in the front section, but we came as close as you can get to being forced down into the front section, and we're all like looking up. So
it was quite fun to have to chase the fight scenes across the
yeah.
scene.
Oh my goodness, the fight scenes were insane. Now, do y'all want to take a guess at how much it's grossed internationally?
Oh, yeah, probably. I don't know. I want to say 21 million.
Okay, Nick says 21 million. What about you, Brent?
I'm going to go ahead and put it at about 18.
Okay. What about you, Zach? You want to take a guess?
28 mil.
57 million.
Oh,
This is a
Holy
big
moly.
success. Yeah, this is they Kamehameha it, whatever, however it goes. I've never seen power levels that high in a box office figure. Or however it goes.
I'd be
I don't know.
interested in seeing, the separation by country or something, or maybe nationality. and
Yeah,
see-
that I don't have, but it would be interesting to get that. So that, I mean, it's doing well. There's a lot of interest, and this will mean that we're about to get a lot of anime movies in theaters because Hollywood chases the success.
True.
Right.
Well, we've had some big successes in the past before. Generally, the Ghibli films or
Yeah.
Miyazaki.
And Ghibli, Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki, most people would know like Spirited Away. I'm thinking the average.
Oh,
Spirited Away,
Castle in the
Princess
Sky.
Mononoke, Castle. My personal favorite Miyazaki is it Howl's Moving Castle?
Yes.
Yes.
I love that one. But I mean, I like everything. Not the first one I ever saw was like in the 90s. It was Nausicaa in the Valley of the Winds. But anyway, okay, we're not here to talk about Miyazaki. We're here to talk about Dragon Ball. So I'm going to get us to a break. We come back. We'll keep talking. I think what I want to do is after the break, the next segment, we will do our Anime 101, and then we'll save our what do we think about Broly for the last part of the show. That's called, I'll pull the veil. That's called the tease. That's to keep them listening. Keep them listening. So what did we think of Dragon Ball Broly? So that'll be after the break. Let me throw some quick show notes out there. Folks, you could the show notes for today's show will be up at shaneplays.com when the podcast version goes out. So you can go there and learn more about what we're talking about. Last week's show is out there, the podcast on the blog and all that. It was the Fantasy Makers, Tolkien, Lewis, and McDonald. Great show. And of course, the show does go out as a podcast after the main broadcast on Saturdays. It goes out on my blog at shaneplays.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, and more. And last but never least, Shane Plays is carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. You can find us a week delayed on Saturdays and Mondays on kryptonradio.com. So make sure to check all that out. Now, guys, one thing I do on the show, and because we're going to we powered up today. We went and powered up. I've got 3 bad jokes today. So instead of doing one bad joke at the end of the show, we're going to do 3 bad jokes today. Here's the first one. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. You guys did sign the waiver, right, for psychological damage?
Ooh.
Zach, did you give him the waiver? All right. I just hope you guys won't sue me. Okay, here it goes. You ready? All right. How many Super Saiyans does it take to change a light bulb?
How powered up are they?
It doesn't matter. In fact, that it plays into the answer just one, but it will take him 5 episodes. All right, guys. Zach, let's hit a break, and we'll be back with more on Shane Plays Geek Talk. Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com
today.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Troll Lord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or trolllord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or trolllord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk. We were here sitting here yakking and gabbing about Anime 101. I'm your host, Shane Plays Geek Talk. Shane Stacks. This is Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to call in, the number is 501-823-0965, or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. In addition to being joined by my producer, Zach, who's a big anime fan, my friends Nick and Brent are here, and we went earlier in the week and we saw Dragon Ball Super Broly in the theater. So we're going to have our thoughts and what we did we like it and all that before the end of the show. That'll be after this segment. After the next break, we'll get into that. But for right now, we're going to talk about Anime 101. And what I mean by that is, just like I was talking about comic books briefly before the break, anime is not one genre. A lot of people, if you're just casually paying attention, probably think it's just one genre. It's this sort of martial arts with ki energy and swords and maybe some technology. I mean, so many of the anime shows have that kind of thing. People fighting a lot or fighting supernatural stuff or whatever. But there is a huge range of genres within anime. So if you're always hearing people talk about anime, but you don't know, like, where do I even get started or what would I watch? One of the things we're going to do today, in addition to talking about Dragon Ball Super Broly, the movie, is, I've asked Nick and Brent and my friend Justin Mobley, who actually heads up the Mobley Detective Agency. He's the one that kind of researches all the muffin stuff and acts as a go-between for us and everything. He couldn't make it today. He sent in some notes, so I'm hoping to be able to take a look at a few of his notes and share those as well. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I've asked his permission if I can add all of his notes to the show notes. So hopefully, because he really sent in some really good information here, very comprehensive. He was hoping to make the show. So hopefully he'll be okay with me linking that out. So you can get all the benefit of things he was talking about. First of all, as a little bit of trivia, okay, anime is the Japanese term for animation, which means any form of animated media. So if you're in Japan and you say anime, it's just like saying animation in America. It's all the animation that's out there. We use it when we talk about anime in the States or in the West or whatever. More often than not, we're referring to animation from Japan, or maybe even, and this is a point of contention, of animation that uses a lot of that style. Mm-hmm. So that is anime, and that can cover a huge range of genres. So let me give sort of my personal limited history with anime, and then what Brent and Nick are going to do is they have a couple of shows they want to recommend that they think, hey, these might be a good entry to anime. And then I'm hoping we'll have time to talk about where would we find, where's the best place to get it? And like Brent was showing me the other day, he showed me this anime search engine that you can find where legally to watch this stuff. So there you go. So yeah, if people are wanting super secret, deep net, free ways to watch stuff you should be paying for, that's not going to be today's show. What we're going to talk about is how can you go out and find this stuff? Because I know there's pirated stuff all over there, but I'm not gonna talk about that. All right, so here's a quick summary of my anime history, and I was born in 1972. So yeah, I know, right? And so in the 70s and 80s, there wasn't this concept of anime. And maybe there was, but there was no internet or whatever for as the anime. I just I noticed a certain style of cartoon that I liked that had certain features of style that especially how the explosions would do and the space battles would do and the lasers looked and all this stuff. And just the characters and everything. And I was like, I like that. And I just called it Japanese animation in my head. And then later I found out, it's anime or whatever. So, as a kid, I watched Battle of the Planets, G-Force, which was a sort of modified version of another show that happens a lot, especially they would import shows and then kind of change the plot and the dialogue to fit quote unquote American audiences. Star Blazers, the space battleship Yamato. Now I lump a lot of episodes of Transformers and G.I. Joe and Inspector Gadget, and there was a show called like Galaxy Rangers. There's a lot of others that they may not have necessarily been a Japanese cartoon, but they used Japanese animators on a lot of the stuff. So I saw a lot of those distinctive traits in some of those shows. Robotech, of course, and Voltron, all that stuff. Now, and then Transformers, the movie, is probably my personal most beloved example of anime. I think Transformers. Did they produce that for American audiences first? I can't remember. Anyway, I love it. I love the animation on Transformers, the movie. Then, of course, Akira. Mm-hmm. I had read some of the Marvel Comics was publishing the Akira manga in American comic book form, so I was exposed that way. Then I saw the movie. I was like, man, I never seen anything like that. Then I actually went to Japan. See, there's probably going to be a lot of anime and manga nerds out there that are probably going to want to kill me because I lived in Japan for 2 years when I was in the Air Force in the early 90s. I was into geeky stuff, but I wasn't really into anime. And I would flip the local Japanese stations and see Dragon Ball and see like Ranma 1/2 and all that. And I would just leave it on and watch it. But I remember Dragon Ball, what struck me about Dragon Ball is their eyes got more rectangular because before that, everything had been this kind of big circular, doughy-eyed kind of thing. And I'll tell you, it took me about 3 weeks of Ranma 1/2 to figure out that they changed when they fell into water. I didn't have a clue what was going on in that show. So then, of course, now and then in the early 90s, mid 90s or whatever, I saw stuff like Ninja Scroll, and I wrote down a couple of notes: hyperviolence and quote unquote tentacle rape. And it just turned me off of anime because in my mind I'm like, well, that's what all anime is now, which is not a fair thing, but that's where my mind went. So I just didn't pay attention. Lo and behold, One Punch Man came on to Toonami. I loved it. And since then, I've been getting like Dragon Ball Super, watch some JoJo's, watching My Hero Academia and other stuff that people are recommending to me. So that's my history with anime. And I would only just now kind of consider that I'm becoming an anime fan where I'm seeking out more of it. So having said all that, starting with Nick, just no particular reason. What's the first show that you would recommend and why?
The first one I'm going to recommend is Mob Psycho 100.
Psycho. Okay, I'm going to make these notes here. All right. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'll put these in the show notes.
You mentioned One Punch Man. Well, Mob Psycho 100 is written by the same person that writes One Punch Man.
Okay.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it seems like a lot of people that I talk to are aware of Mob Psycho 100, but they haven't watched it.
Okay.
I'm one of those people.
Okay, well, in my personal opinion, I think Mob Psycho 100 is a little bit better than One Punch Man, but your mileage may vary just depending on what you're looking for. But if you don't think that, I still think that anyone that enjoys One Punch Man is still going to heavily enjoy Mob Psycho 100. because it has a pretty unique looking style to it.
Right.
It's actually looks a lot more similar to the original webcomic
Oh, okay.
than One Punch Man does, because One Punch
Yeah,
Man
most anime is, and that's something that most anime is based on manga or manga, Japanese comic books, in other words. So anyway, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so it looks pretty similar to its original style, and they tried to keep that. And on top of that, I just think it's pretty funny. It has a lot of really fun jokes and things that I would say that go against the grain of what you're expecting to happen.
Right.
I don't really want to give anything away because it kind of ruins some of the funny moments if I did that. But
Okay.
I would say go in there and then you'll probably see some scenes, think that one thing's going to happen, and then it's just going to totally go the opposite direction.
Okay. So, and what genre would you place it in? Is it martial arts? Is it like what is it?
It's kind of hard to say. I'd say it's like a mixture of kind of like slice of life where it's just everyday antics along with comedy, and everyone's psychics. They're all psychics.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And Mob is the most powerful psychic to exist. So it's a similar premise to One Punch Man where they're all superheroes.
Right.
But instead they're psychics. So yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint it into one direction.
Okay, so where, like, if somebody's like, okay, I want to check that out, where's the easiest way for them to sample that and see if they like it?
Legally streaming Crunchyroll for sure.
Crunchyroll? Okay.
Yeah, I would
Crunchyroll's a
recommend that
website and an app and all that. The other big one is Funimation.
Yes.
And then, of course, you got Toonami on Cartoon Network and their app, the Adult Swim app, I think has a lot of the Toonami shows on it that you can check out. So, okay, so Mob Psycho 100. I'm writing this down right now so I can put them in the show notes.
Yeah, there's season 1 on Crunchyroll right now, and season 2 is currently airing. So if it's something new, and you can keep up with it as it's going, and
okay,
that's part of the fun is just watching it and talking to people about it as each episode comes out.
Okay, and you mentioned something that I think is kind of a hallmark of anime. It's often and it can be an adjustment for Americans or Westerners, I think, to get used to it. It's a really weird mix of normal and then hyper crazy fighting and stuff, and then jokes and cute. Like it's this weird mix of all of that. In fact, there's a name for that kind of cuteness that'll juxtapose. And I can't remember what it is, but there's a term for it. All right, Brent, what about you? What's the show you got there, buddy?
So another recommendation I'm going to give from this season and last season is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime.
Well, there you go. I've heard of this one. What's the lowdown on this one?
So it follows, it's what's called an isekai, which in Japanese that means different world. So what they do is someone is transported from one world to another. In this case, they're transported from modern day Japan to this mythical, like Dungeons and Dragons style world. But he's teleported there as a slime with the power to take control of whatever he eats, and he's invincible to fire and ice.
Okay.
And it just goes on this crazy adventure.
That sounds fun. So, and a slime is is it the Dragon Quest series or whatever? There's a video game series.
Yes, Dragon Quest is the slime's kind of like the character mascot.
Right. So I wonder if there was any intentional nod that way or whatever. So is that also on Crunchyroll or Funimation or?
I believe it's on both, actually.
Okay.
If you'll give me one moment, I can probably look that up for you.
And if you would, I'll let you look that up, but I also want to throw that website out that you showed me that's like a search engine for finding stuff. I'll throw out a couple of Justin's shows that he recommended. And he's got again, I hope I can put this in the show notes because he's got a list of stuff, not specific animes, but features to avoid when trying to get into the genre or the stuff or whatever. For example, he recommends try not to make your first anime series something that's hundreds of episodes long. Yeah. Right? He said the longest thing on his list that he sent is 64 episodes. Some of the shows that he recommended, of course, Akira the movie, Cowboy Bebop, which is a weird sort of Western in space with crazy music. He recommended Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Ghost in the Shell, My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, Outlaw Star, Pat Labor, Summer Wars, and Your Name. But for his reasoning, we'll have to go to the show notes, hopefully. All right, Nick, what's another show you got there, buddy?
So another one that I'm going to talk about is much older. It's Great Teacher Onizuka.
Great Teacher Onizuka.
Back from the 90s. It's a comedy anime, mostly, primarily. It can go in a little bit raunchy direction, but it's not generally too terrible.
Okay.
But I think it's hilarious. It's not too long either. It's about 40-ish episodes.
What is it? Is it just normal, regular life, or like what is it?
It's kind of like a little bit out there, but yeah, it's about this character that was kind of a punk growing up, and now he's a teacher.
Yeah.
And so he's teaching this class, and his teaching methods are to say the least, it's a little bit against what you would normally...
Unconventional?
Yeah, unconventional. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
All right, funny. All right, so, and that's called Great Teacher Onizaki, once again.
Onizuka.
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 Onizuka. So, again, is that Crunchyroll?
Yes,
okay.
That one's also on Crunchyroll. They actually recently added it to their catalog not too long ago.
Okay, excellent. All right, and just in the interest of time, I'm going to move us ahead because I do want to talk about Broly a little bit, and we're just under 10 minutes. Brent, do me a favor. Throw out the name of another anime that you recommend, and then I'll add your reasoning. I'll get with you and add your reasoning to the show notes. People can go check that out. And then what's that search engine that you told me about?
So the search engine is because.mo, and Mo is spelled M-O-E. So
okay. M-O-E. It's a great search engine. I was very impressed with it. So
I will tell you it's missing quite a bit. I don't think it has all the Amazon Prime and stuff like that. But if it's on Crunchyroll, Funimation, or High Dive, it seems to be on there.
Well, I know you told me that there was something that you've been trying to find and you couldn't, and then you found it because of that search engine, right? Mm-hmm. Legally or whatever. So, okay. And for another example of the different kinds of stuff you can find out there, I didn't think this was a particular amazing anime, but I think it's worth mentioning to show the different kinds of stuff you can get. There's a anime out there that the reason I watched it is because of the Dungeons and Dragons connection. It's called Record of Lodos War. And it's basically the creators took their real life Dungeons and Dragons campaign in Japan and turned it into a series. And there's some artwork and everything that is directly an homage or whatever you want to call it to Dragonlance. So that's what caught my attention. So there's so much stuff out there. I don't want us to get bogged down. But there's so much wide stuff. And did you have another anime you wanted to throw out there?
Made in the Abyss is one of the ones I'd recommend.
Made in the Abyss. Okay. And I'll get with you to get your reasoning and put that in the show notes. Zach, did you want to give a shout out to any anime?
I mean, an anime that I watched when I was young, probably in the 5th grade, was Code Lyoko when I was growing up. And it was an anime. And obviously with Dragon Ball Z. Right. Nothing else pretty much I can think of right now.
Dragon Ball. Do you think most people that are in the anime right now came through it through Dragon Ball? Is that like the big gateway?
Probably so, because it was definitely for me, besides the shows that were on Toonami or Cartoon Network.
All right. So I got another bad joke for you guys. I'm going to throw out some sponsor love. We'll talk about Broly a little bit. What did Vegeta say when he got his tuition bill?
No idea.
It was over 9,000.
It was over 9,000. Ding, 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 ding. The power levels. It's an interesting bit of trivia. I guess originally in the Japanese version it was over 8,000, but they changed it to 9,000 because to match the lip movement in the English dub. So it's like one of the most famous things out there. All right, folks, don't get on over there to Game Goblins. Some goblins are your friends. Bowman and West Canis, right over there by Tropical Smoothie and Senior Tequila across from Lowe's. Great selection of games, RPGs, board games, Warhammer, card games, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Dragon Ball, whatever. They're fantastic service, plenty of play space, and they've got events going on every day of the week. So Josh and everybody and Jeremy takes great care of the customers. Fantastic game store. Check them out. And they have a customer loyalty program that tracks your purchases and rewards you. But also, if you're a first-time customer and you mention Shane Plays, you can get $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Okay, guys, so here's where radio gets fun. And luckily, we've already had a little bit of Broly discussion. We've got about 5 minutes. So I'm going to shut up as much as I can and let you guys talk because y'all, very graciously came on the show and went and saw the movie and everything. I liked Broly a lot. What I'll say is I liked it a lot. I thought that the animation and the fight scenes and choreography were ridiculously cool. And there was just a lot of really amazing stuff going on. I mean, I'd probably even go into the theater to see it again just for the ridiculous experience of it. I think I might have liked the actual story of the original Broly movie better, but I don't know. So, and the other thing that strikes me is I think of Broly as the Incredible Hulk of the Dragon Ball universe. So he's a Saiyan who, once he gets going, like, it's almost impossible to stop him. So I could say more, but I won't. In no particular order, Brent, what did you think of the movie?
In comparison to the last one, I really enjoyed it, and overall, I think it actually almost meets your major superhero movies over here in production value. It's really good.
It was animation was fantastic.
It's not traditional animation. You can also see where they're using 3D CGI.
You did see some of that mixed in,
but it's done very well. In terms of story, I think it does very well. The characters, especially in this one compared to the last one, you feel more like they have meaning and connection. Like in the last one, Vegeta sounds kind of like a baby.
Yeah.
Multiple points. He doesn't so in this one. He
the first Broly movie, Vegeta was too scared to fight, which I was like, come on, Vegeta's my man. Vegeta's my favorite Dragon Ball character.
Really? I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Vegeta. I don't have any problem with Kakarot, but Vegeta's my man.
No, I appreciate that.
So what did you guys think was going on with when they were fighting and the screen shattered and what was going on with that? That's a minor spoiler, but I mean, what the heck was going on with that?
I think they were just trying out something new, to be honest. Maybe throw something to the wall and see what happens.
Or maybe they broke the universe when they were fighting.
I felt like they were fighting so hard they broke space-time and fell into some other, but I don't know.
I actually agree with that. That's what I believe too.
I mean, in Dragon Ball Z, they did break space-time by powering up once, so...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that happened in DBZ, where they screamed, and it ripped a hole in the dimension so they could go to...
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, so Nick, what did you think of Broly? Would you recommend it?
Oh, yeah, I totally recommend it. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, go watch it. I enjoyed it a lot. Thought it was better than Resurrection F by a long shot, and I enjoyed it more than the original Broly.
Yeah. I definitely enjoyed the animation more.
Oh, it's very pretty.
And the... It's very, because Dragon Ball usually has a tipping point where it's like a fight for the rest of the movie or whatever. But this was like, la, 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 boom. And then once it started, man, it was almost not boring, but like, la, 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 la. And then all heck just broke loose. So, and they did some pretty, they did some pretty funny stuff with Vegeta and Goku towards the end, and I'll just leave it at that. I definitely don't want to spoil for anybody.
Me neither.
The action figures, and I'm saying figures on purpose. I bet you're going to be pretty popular of that.
Yes.
So, did either of you guys have a favorite scene or a favorite thing that they did?
This is going to be hard without mentioning spoilers here.
Minor spoilers are okay.
There's a scene at the end where Broly is indeed chasing two people, and they split off, and that's probably one of my favorite parts of the scene, and you'll know it when you see it.
Okay, all right. What about you, Nick?
I was, I enjoyed the intro to Broly when he was first an adult. I don't know why, but I think they did something kind of interesting there.
Well, and I won't reveal what it is, but the story writing about why he wears that fur was a really powerful bit of story writing. Broly is a different type of character in this, and I won't say how, but he's still a rampaging, I'll kick your butt and destroy the universe kind of character, but
he's much more likable and connectable than before.
Yeah, they gave him more of a backstory and stuff. So what are we looking at, Zach? We got about a minute left?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what I liked the most was... well, what I didn't like is that Vegeta's eye never twitched. And he never went, I've never seen power levels. I was very upset by that. But I think what I liked the most was how much they devastated the area they were fighting in. I mean, I was like, and it really made a point. And I really would have loved to see Broly and Whis throw down. I will spoil that Whis and Broly don't throw down, but I would love to. What do you guys think? What do y'all think would happen if Whis and Broly threw down?
Oh man, Whis would wipe the floor with anything.
Would he?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, much. You don't want to see it. You don't hope for it.
And I will say that Beerus has to babysit. That's kind of funny. Okay, as promised earlier, here is the extra discussion with Nick and Brent recorded after the live radio show. Again, topics covered include negatives on Broly, subtitled or subbed versus dubbed anime, and favorite and least favorite anime tropes, among other things. So note that Nick's audio is recorded via Discord on a phone because he was traveling and was kind enough to make himself available. So it's listenable, but it's not the same quality as the rest of the show or as Brent's audio. Thanks again, guys, and enjoy this extra content. All right, so for the podcast version, I talked with Nick and Brent. There was a few more things we wanted to add to the podcast version that, given the time limits of radio, we didn't get a chance to get into. And I want to point out, this is Nick is being kind enough he's traveling for work, and he's being kind enough to talk with me on Discord on his phone with no headphones. So if it's, if the quality is different from the main radio show, that's why. But I think it's definitely doable and workable and all that. The main thing I wanted to talk with Nick about was he had some further thoughts on Broly that we didn't get a chance to get into during the show. And one of the things that you brought up, Nick, was that you actually had kind of a negative on the on Bro. Even though you really, really enjoyed it, you did have a critique. Do you remember what we're talking about?
Yeah, so just to play devil's advocate a little bit, I did want to talk about how they did kind of retread similar ground of what they've already done in some other super arcs, and they kind of just pull in a villain, either whether they were old or new, and then they just kind of blasted them to the top of a power that they didn't seemingly would normally attain unless they were just kind of on a turbo schedule of trying to catch these people up to the power level that Goku and Vegeta currently are. And I just feel like that's a little bit annoying because they did it with Frieza and they did it again with Krillin, and they've done it a couple of times throughout the Power arc, the Tournament of Power arc, and then of course they did it again with Broly. Mm-hmm. That's one aspect that I wasn't too much a fan of, and I hope that they stop doing that. To be honest, it's fine, I guess, to an extent, but it's hard to accept all the time when it happens so often. I guess another good example would be the Saiyans, of course, from Universe 6, where they just kind of seemingly all obtain Super Saiyan practically within a day of just Kaba explaining what it feels like to be Super Saiyan instead of them training for days on end or obtaining some kind of powerful moment in their life, and they finally get the power.
Gotcha.
And then another piece I wanted to bring up. Oh man, this one's escaping me. Hold on, sorry.
That's okay. You'll remember tonight at 4:00 in the morning. So you'll be like, anyway, okay. So, and if you remember while we're talking, we can work it back in. In any movie, even if you really enjoy it, you can still have quibbles. I wonder if that, what you're talking about is a dynamic of Dragon Ball has been around so long now, right? I mean, they've powered up and everybody's been powered up and they've gone through these long arcs of how to hit these power levels, that in order to give, Goku and Vegeta and the main characters a challenge, they have to get all these other people ridiculously powered up, as soon as possible. I wonder if maybe that's, why that is. I don't know. As a relatively new Dragon Ball viewer, I've only been really watching it for a couple of years now. It doesn't annoy me at this point yet, but I understand what you're saying. And I see that kind of thing in other entertainment that I enjoy where you're like, really again? So, or really this other guy it took him 10 years to learn this, and this other guy got it in like an afternoon. So, one thing that I meant to get into with you and Brent that I didn't, is subbed versus dubbed. because when we were recommending where people could get anime, one thing we didn't go into is that, since it's from Japan, then you can either get stuff that has been dubbed, which means it has English vocals or whatever vocals dubbed on it, sometimes multiple versions of English in the subtitles or in the maybe even the vocal, or you can get subbed, so it's either the audio has been overdone with English voice act or voice actors speaking English, or it's in the original Japanese language, but it has subtitles. So do you have a preference on that and a recommendation for people who are just getting into anime?
Yeah, I do prefer to watch everything in their original language. Anime, of course, everything's in Japanese originally. But even if it was something else, like a cartoon from a different land, maybe, I don't know, say something, I would still prefer to watch it in its original language. And I just think it's because there's a lot of mannerisms that are probably emoted through the character that make less sense in a translated language than they do in its native tongue. So I feel like you're missing part of the aspect of a character if they don't quite capture exactly what it is that they do or say. And that can really come into play with language just because there's so many different types of mannerisms and, colloquialisms and things that people say in languages that just don't exactly translate well, or things that... So, yeah, that's how I feel about it. Though I think that if you want to watch things in dub, go ahead. If you think Japanese is a bit of a barrier at the beginning, I don't think it's a bad thing to watch things in dub. It's just not my personal preference, and I do think that you're missing out a bit on the experience when you do that. So ultimately, it's just up to the individual viewer. I do think that certain shows, though, have pretty excellent dubs. I think Dragon Ball Z is typically a case pointed to that people specifically like the dub over the Japanese original. And I think a lot of that probably stems from the fact that they've been using the same voice actress for Goku since Goku was a small child in the 1980s anime. So she now sounds like a granny, so Goku
right.
comes across as Granny Goku, as people call it.
Right. I think Brent actually, and I'll try to remember to ask him about this. He specifically wants the English dub because he no longer likes the Japanese voice acting for Goku. And that was one of the things that he pointed out. So, or it might have been Justin. I'll try to find, but somebody specifically brought that up. Now if you're going to like Crunchyroll or Funimation, which are the two main places, what most well-known, I guess, places online to get anime legally, what I've found is that they're like, hey, you can watch Dragon Ball for free, but it's going to be it's going to have subtitles. If you want the dubbed version, you've got to have like a premium account. Is that a pretty common thing when you get out there trying to get anime, or,
Yeah, for the most part, though, it really just depends on where you go. I do believe that Funimation's got all its dub stuff locked behind a subscription. I don't even think you can stream on Funimation without a sub. Crunchyroll, they do have some dubs, but they are obviously not really focused in that area nearly as much as Funimation.
All right. And of course, Toonami, if you watch, and there's other places to get anime, but other than going out and buying DVDs and Blu-rays or buying digital copies, I would say the three main places are Toonami on Adult Swim on Saturday nights, or Funimation or Crunchyroll. So if you watch if you watch Toonami, it's all dubbed in English, but you're usually a season or two behind where the show is, if you don't mind watching it in Japanese with subtitles. So, that's just one thing for people to know. All right. So, I'm going to let you get back to your life, Nick. I appreciate you. I had a last question for you. Do you have you were talking earlier, like, I'm tired of, somebody powering up, in an afternoon when it took somebody else, 2 years. And you mentioned the Tournament of Power, and these tournaments are definitely a trope in anime. where you get everybody together and they have a big fighting tournament. Do you have a favorite trope or a least favorite trope from anime?
No, I think actually the tournament arc is my favorite trope.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you like the tournament arc.
Yeah, it's my favorite, definitely, because they just bring in a whole bunch of people with unique powers and throw them at each other.
Yeah, and there's all these, he's about to die. No, wait, he came back and he's totally dribbling the other guy. No, that guy came back and is dribbling him. So, and there's just constant moments of drama. So, I've had people tell me, knowing that I'm just getting, they're like, there's a lot of anime has a lot of tournaments. It's a major trope, but so far I've enjoyed it. And evidently there's a tournament coming up in the second season of My Hero Academia, and I'm looking forward to that. So do you have a least favorite trope?
This one stems a lot of way from shonen, but it happens in a lot of other shows. I refer to it as the dental pervert trope, where it's like a guy walking in on a girl changing or something along that line.
Right.
And then they get smacked in the face, even though they clearly were not in the wrong. It was just a complete accident.
Right. All right. And then you have characters that are just straight out somewhat perverted, like Master Roshi. So, anyway, that's the other thing that I'll have to do another show on this, but there's a visual language to manga and anime that is not shared in like Western animation or comic books. Like if you see a bubble, like a snot bubble or something, or a blood, that can be lust. And there's that sort of pound symbol on people's foreheads that means they're angry. I think if they're asleep, sometimes there's like a bubble that comes out of their nose. So there's a whole different visual language I want to get into sometime. All right, man, I'm going to let you go. But if you remember what the other thing was about Dragon Ball Super Broly, let me know. And, I'll try to work it in as a footnote or into the show notes. So.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm probably going to end up remembering like 15 minutes from now as soon as we
that's how it always works, man. So you can even call me back if you want, if you remember tonight. So, all right.
Okay.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later. Appreciate you, Nick. And now I'm talking with Brent, and this will probably sound a little bit clearer because I'm using a lapel mic and we're sitting here staring at each other in the same room. Main thing I wanted to ask you is that you didn't get a chance during the show to give your thoughts on why you recommend Made in the Abyss as a first time anime or a new anime for somebody who's getting into it. So I'm going to hand this over to you and let you explain.
One of my favorite reasons for recommending Made in the Abyss is that it really breaks the genre, especially what it recommends at first. So it appears to be this fantasy where you're going from almost a normal world down into a giant hole that's an abyss, and it gets more weird as you go down. But it gets somewhat darker too. It certainly looks like at first you're following a little girl, and then you're like, this is not a show for children. This is not a cartoon. This is a show for anyone who's willing to enjoy the actual story of it, not just what's happening. I mean, no flashy screens. This is kind of the exact opposite of Dragon Ball, where there's far more depth to this. Quite a abyssal depth to it.
Okay.
Sorry, the horrible pun.
Well, no, that's fine. No, go ahead and keep the microphone for a second. Hopefully this will pick it up. So your main reason for recommending it is the difference in feel, like to show people that all anime is not just crazy punch 'em ups, and I mean it's a whole different kind of storytelling. Is that what you're saying? Did I hear that right?
Yes, this is instead of this story could be told in almost any medium, really.
Okay.
It's one of those. It doesn't have a huge amount of action. I mean, you're definitely going to be in awe of the visuals in this.
Right.
I mean, you're going to love it. I promise you on that. But it's hard to say what you like about it because it's only 12 episodes long. So the more I say, the more I give away.
Okay.
But it's not exactly something I'd recommend for small children, but anyone over the age of 13, I think, should be fine.
Okay. Fair enough. So here we go. So another thing that Nick wanted to talk about, you may not want to, you may not have anything here, but, after we finished the main radio show, he said, I actually had a negative on Broly, but I didn't want to, be a downer or something. I said, no, that's fine. You can share your opinion. We're telling people what we thought about Broly. Did you have anything in Broly that you didn't like? And you don't have to. I'm just saying, was there anything that you wish they would have done different or that you didn't like in Broly?
Well, I usually just compare Dragon Ball movies to Dragon Ball because they're not usually outstanding in story. They're not... Well, I mean, they've greatly progressed. I mean, storytelling in Dragon Ball has gotten a lot better, in my opinion. But it's still missing, like... You go there and you know what's going to happen. There's no... All the foretellings there... If you've watched one Dragon Ball movie, you know what's happening. It's just what gags come up next, how do they portray it? How does the action scenes look? I kind of wish there was more substance to it. But I kind of like that they did do a better job of character development this time around, by far, is my opinion. But I'm usually lenient because overall, I wanted to leave a good impression of Broly because it really is a good show for Dragon Ball especially. And since we didn't have much time, I could keep going on by the positives and just barely mark out the negatives.
That's fair enough. So, speaking of character development, there were a couple of new characters introduced that were kind of Broly's friends that I thought were kind of cool characters. They were part of the Frieza. Yeah, they were two Frieza Force members. So I thought they were pretty good. And one thing I noticed with Broly was, I've gone back and bought a lot of the old Dragon Ball movies, the quote unquote non-canon Dragon Ball movies. And they're usually only like an hour and 10 minutes. This was like an hour and 40 minutes or something, so they could have, I guess, added that substance to it that you're talking about. But they did with Broly. I mean, he's not a one-dimensional or two-dimensional character at all. So, but he still hulks out and goes berserker. So, here's something else that I wanted to ask you the same questions that I asked Nick in follow-up. Do you have a preference for subbed versus dubbed, especially when it comes to somebody who's just now getting into anime?
I think most of us got in when it was dubbed, especially Dragon Ball was a great example when it came over. Naruto for the next generation, the big three, Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. My preference, I highly prefer Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball not so much, but Dragon Ball Z and Super in dub because of Goku's voice is the same as they use in Dragon Ball, actually. He never changed voice actors or voices. So from a small child to a great grandpa, pretty much, he sounds kind of like a kid.
Right.
But getting in, I don't think dubbed or sub matters. I know a lot of the people I've met, they don't keep up well with the subs. You're usually doing good either way. I usually just turn on whichever one's easier, and then if I don't like the voices, I switch to the other one.
Okay.
Whichever one has better voice acting for me.
Well, that's fair enough. I've never been bothered by subtitles, ever, but some people don't like them.
I mean, after a bit, you don't even notice they're there. You're just like, am I speaking Japanese?
Right. Yeah. You just get used to it. And then some people prefer the subtitle version because they want to learn Japanese. And one thing I've noticed that is very interesting is in like some of those older Dragon Ball movies I was talking about, I'll actually watch them in English dub, but then I'll put there's 2 or 3 tracks of subtitles. And the translation in the subtitles is different from the English. Yes. It still captures the same meaning, but it has variations, in what it's saying. So it's definitely a translation.
It's usually there's usually a big difference between there's a direct translation and then there's the localized translation. And you always have to be careful. I mean, it's kind of hard to do a great local transaction because you can always do a direct and then you're not punished for it from the fan base. But if you do a localization, you have to do it good. So, like, idioms don't translate well across. Like, in Japan, they don't say I had a ball going there. Right. I mean, you're going to say something else.
Right.
But if they say that weird idiom over here, it's kind of like you look twice and you go, what?
Yeah, what are they talking about? Right.
And if they just said they had a ball, it wouldn't have broke you from the immersion of this show. So, the other neat thing is you'll notice that on some of the subtitles they'll actually, you'll start adding some of the wording in the back, like the signs and stuff. I'll actually sometimes completely stop the dub show, go to the sub version of it, go to that second of it, and just see what that sign says in the background, because more often than not, that's some artist just having fun with a name, and it can be hilarious quite sometimes.
Okay, cool. And another thing I've noticed that, just to let people know, that if you want to watch the imported version as quickly as possible, you're probably going to have to do it subbed.
Absolutely.
So like if you want to watch Dragon Ball Super within just a few days or whatever of it airing in Japan or whatever it is, I'm just, I don't know how quick it's going to be subbed if you want to watch it as quick as possible.
Yeah. Traditionally, a few years ago, a year ago, you would have found all those on Crunchyroll and all your dubbed on Funimation. But they've split up, so you'll find your subbed and your dub on both. But there usually is a 3-week gap between the sub coming out and the dub coming out. And unless it's an extremely popular show, then there's usually less than a week. And those are usually only done for like the first half of the season. And then they'll take a 4-week break, which is painful to like not have anime for 4 weeks on something you're like halfway through the climax.
Yeah,
I'm there.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, cool. So final 2 questions, same thing I asked Nick, and follow up. Do you have a favorite anime trope and a least favorite anime trope?
Favorite anime trope. Now you gave me a hard one.
Well, just for example, Nick's favorite anime trope is the big tournament.
Oh, the tournament arcs?
Yeah, he likes
those. He definitely loves his tournament arc animes. I have a thing for the slapstick humor. So in Japan, there's this trope where you have a straight man and a funny man, where the whole joke is the straight man just doesn't get it the entire time. And there's just something when it's played well. I absolutely love that. My least favorite trope, which will probably get me killed by a lot of people, is idols. I don't care for idols.
What do you mean by idols?
So in Japan, there's this sense of idols where, like, exactly you might think of.
Do you mean Minmay? Like Minmay from Macross or Robotech? Do you mean that?
Oh, actually, those are some of the very first idols in anime.
Right.
So that's actually a great example. Right. But I'm more thinking about Precure Live, Magica. I like those shows for what they are, but the pure idol shows where you're trying to be cute for being cute.
So it's like the whole show is set around the idol? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's about a cute girl doing a cute thing, and it's like, that's all it was. It was kind of cool when the first ones of those came out, because I was actually watching them at that point.
Right.
Like Lucky Star. Have you ever seen or heard of that?
No.
It is probably the most popular Mo anime, and I'm actually...
what does Mo mean? What does that mean? Does that mean
Mo
idol?
Is cute.
Okay.
So they go together, so someone's going to get me in trouble for this because they're not the same, but they usually show up quite the same. So if you're being Mo, you're usually kawaii. So
and kawaii means what?
Really cute and sweet.
Okay.
Like, imagine a 10-year-old girl that says something heartbreakingly cute to you, and you might have someone in the character go, that's so Mo or something.
I got you.
It's like,
okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I want to do a whole nother show here. I want to do a whole nother show just on the terminology and the visual language of manga and anime. There's a whole different visual language in manga and anime than in Western comics and in cartoons. And like I said, the terms you were just using right then, somebody who's been in anime for a long time probably knows exactly what you're talking about. But I'm like, nope, I got no clue, dude. So, but that's why I want to do this kind of stuff. So, all right, man. Well, I really appreciate you. So, and thanks to you and Nick for the extra time to add a little bit to the podcast version. And I'm sure we'll be talking anime again sometime down the road. So, did you want to say goodbye to everybody? I'll miss you so much. Oh, was that Mo? No, that wasn't Mo? Okay.
That was just me being stupid.
That was you being stupid? All right. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. So, guys, I got to wrap this out. See, radio goes quick. Thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to do an anime show forever. Last joke of the week. Did you know Frieza wasn't very popular in school? Did y'all know that?
I didn't know that.
Well, his brother was cooler. Brent, Nick, thank you guys so much. Justin, thanks for sending your notes in. Folks, we'll catch you next time on Shane Plays.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.